Welcome to the October 20th Community Development Citizens Advisory Committee virtual meeting for the safety of our staff and residents. We are holding a virtual meeting today. Welcome to our commissioners, county staff, applicants, and community members who are joining us all remotely. We are legally authorized to hold this virtual meeting based on the governor's executive orders, legislation adopted by the Virginia General Assembly, and the County Board's Continuity of Operations Ordinance adopted in March of 2020. So before we begin, I'll cover a few specifics to orient everyone to our virtual environment. Today's meeting is available to stream from the county website. Audio of today's meeting is available via phone. If commissioners, presenters, or speakers lose internet connectivity during today's meeting, please reconnect with us by phone. For those joining through Microsoft Teams, please keep your phones and devices muted until you're called upon. Please turn off sound to any other devices around you to minimize interference. And we do stress keeping muted when you're not talking, especially when other people are talking. And when called upon, you need to unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon that's located on the meeting command bar. Moderators do not have the ability to unmute you. If you're dialing in by phone, just press *69. Commissioners, if you wish to be recognized to speak during the Q&A portion of the presentations, please use the raise hand function or turn on your video. Applicants, you will be called upon by county staff at your assigned time. A timer for applicant presentations will be displayed on the screen. If you're dialing in by phone and unable to see the screen, we will provide you an audible warning when 5 minutes are remaining, and then you'll be muted when your time has concluded. The meeting chat is active for presenters or commissioners that need technical assistance only. The meeting chat should not be used for discussion, public comment, questions, or about agenda items, or requests for more information. All comments must be shared verbally for the record. Lastly, it's a public forum. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to FOIA. So with that, tonight we're actually going to try something slightly different. We're going to have Laura moderate the questions. So we're very excited for her to do that, and appreciate that. So let's see. Who do we have up first here, Caitlin?
Our first applicant is the Alliance for Arlington Senior Programs, and if we're ready, I can get started with introducing them.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So I'm going to unshare my screen just for a moment while I pull up the summary sheet. So as I said, our first applicant is the Alliance for Senior Programs. They're requesting $20,000 for their Internet Access for Arlington Seniors program. And this program will help them to enable as many low-income seniors as possible to become computer and internet access literate. The grant will also allow AASP to expand the program and provide 4 hours of training each week for 5 weeks to train 40 to 60 seniors to use a computer and to access the internet. AASP then will provide trained seniors with a subscription to Comcast Internet Essentials and a laptop computer. So just to reiterate the overview that Tim gave, you guys are going to have 15 minutes for your presentation. Please try to spend just about 5 to 10 minutes for your actual presentation portion and leave 5 minutes at the end for Q&A. You should have received some questions in advance, and so if you could cover some of those questions, the ones that were indicated to you during the presentation, that would be really helpful. As Tim said, you're going to see a timer on the screen that's going to remind you of the time that you have left, and I'll try to give an audible 5-minute warning when there's about 5 minutes left. So whenever you're ready, I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right, well, thanks very much. My name's Howard Saladki. David Littman and I are with the Alliance for Arlington Senior Programs. Brief introduction about really at the beginning of the year, when Arlington County was launching its vaccination program, we realized that it was really important for everybody, including seniors, to be able to, utilize the internet, because that's basically how you registered to get a vaccination here in Arlington. We identified, we thought, 3 impediments, 3 obstacles to seniors gaining internet access. They were, number 1, affordability. Some seniors can't afford to pay for internet access fees. Number two, lack of computer equipment. Again, some seniors don't have and can't afford laptops or some other computer device. And number three, fear of technology, which is something that I share. We think our program solves pretty much all three issues. On the affordability, as you just heard, our program, that is the Internet Access for Arlington Seniors program, pays for Internet essentials, Internet access fees for our participants. We also provide each of our low-income senior participants, a laptop that we purchase and we own, but we allow them to use so long as they remain in the program. And in terms of fear of technology, that's really what our grant application in a certain sense is all about. We believe that through proper training, we can get seniors who have not previously accessed the internet to get comfortable with computers and with doing searches on the internet and participating in meetings like this one. So with that, I'm going to turn to the 9 questions that were posed to us by Zena, and I guess I'll take them in the order in which they appear. The first question was, how do we plan to recruit trainers, paid trainers, and why aren't we going to just continue to use, pro bono trainers? So we actually, while our grant application doesn't go into great detail because things have changed since our grant application, I think we've now solved the recruitment of paid trainer issue. Myself and Doug Frost, who is chair of the Alliance, have had pretty extensive discussions with Raul Matos. Raul is the coordinator of Arlington Community Learning, which is Arlington's adult education program. And not surprisingly, that program offers a number of classes dealing with computers and technology, and therefore the program has a fair number of instructors who are experienced in training adults, because this is the Arlington Community Learning is Arlington's adult education program, and obviously are knowledgeable and experienced. And Raul is very excited to have, and indeed I think he believes several of his instructors who teach computer type classes would be very interested in becoming paid trainers in our program. When I spoke to Raul just the other day, he even suggested that we have a meeting once Doug Frost comes back into town, probably next week or the week after, with him and some of his instructors who would hopefully say, yeah, absolutely, they'd love to be trainers in our program. And so I think, and by the way, Raul confirmed that the $25 to $30 an hour rate that's indicated in our grant application would be appropriate compensation for people who work in the community, the Arlington Community Learning Program, to have them be trainers in our program. So we think we've actually solved the recruitment of the paid trainer issue. As to why not continue to use pro bono trainers, well, as our application indicates, we've only got one trainer currently, and that's Linda Scholl, who's a member of our board, and she's just doing it out of the kindness of her heart. She's not, an experienced trainer, but I think she's doing a good job. She's gotten, good feedback. But it's going to be very difficult for us to find people who are willing and able to train seniors who don't necessarily have any familiarity with technology, have not accessed the internet before. It's going to be very difficult to find people who are qualified to teach, those kinds of participants, and to have the patience, to deal with, seniors who, as I said before, have fear of technology, et cetera. So we think, the way to go is to find some paid trainers. And as I said just a minute ago, I think we found a perfect source, of our trainers. The second question was, why loan laptops to our program participants rather than just give them the laptop? Well, we're a tax-exempt nonprofit organization. We're relatively small, and we don't want to just give laptops to our senior participants who might decide that they just don't want to, deal with technology any further, or who might become ill or worse and not use their laptops. So we've designed the program so that certainly they have full use of, each one has a full use of a laptop, paid for and provided by us. But once they stop participating in the program, they agree to return the laptop to us, which obviously saves us money and enables us to reuse that laptop, with other, new participants in the program. The third question, I guess, was essentially, do we have plans to provide effectively a help desk for our participating seniors? The answer is we've thought of that too. Getting the staffing to actually, handle a help desk is going to be challenging. We have discussed that issue with, again, Raul Matos, as I said, the coordinator of Arlington Community Learning. His suggestion was to think about using seniors, teenagers from one of or more of our 3 high schools. My understanding is that, for example, at Wakefield, there's something called the senior experience, where seniors, high school seniors, are encouraged to, work within the community, provide services. And so that might be at least, something of a possible source for us to create, a help desk so that our participants can have somebody to call when, they're experiencing a problem with, their technology, or, something's going haywire in terms of their accessing the internet. That's at least initial thought, but we agree that's certainly something that we need to pursue. And as I said, we're thinking possibly, we could use, high school seniors to at least, initially create such a help desk. The fourth question was, so what is it exactly, I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, what is it exactly that we're, our program is teaching our participants? I think, as was alluded to, we do already have 4 participants in our program. We have at least another, probably 10 who are interested and who have filled out applications to be in our program. The 4 who are actually currently participating, I'm going to turn it over to David to sort of describe what it is that we've been doing for them.
Trying to teach them the range of activities. I want them to be able to participate robustly in the 55+ program. Email access or need email skills, be able to access online guides, do searches for things, participate in Zoom calls. Actually, some of our participants have already participated in Zoom calls. And actually, one of our participants has said she's using the newfound skill to study for the citizenship test. So we're trying to make them internet literate, and we're also emphasizing safety and security on the internet. So, like, we're not teaching shopping and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would point out in terms of what Linda Scholl, our board member, has been doing in terms of her role as trainer. She's already had the 4 participants participate in a Zoom meeting with her to show that they can deal with that type of technology. And one of the participants has already, as I said in our grant applications, already indicated she's learning, she's acquiring better English skills so that ultimately she can apply, and she's learning how to apply for U.S. citizenship, on the internet, which I think is just great. The 5th question was, what about barriers to participation, such as transportation and language? Well, the transportation issue, we think, is not necessarily a serious issue here, because what we've been doing, in part in connection with our working with the Arlington 55+ program, is we've been using the senior centers. There are 5 senior centers in the county, spread around the county. So at least hopefully there's one senior center that's, near, any particular participant. We've been using primarily Langston Brown, but Linda's held sessions at Arlington Mill. In addition, Raul Matos indicated that he'd be willing to arrange for our use of the computer lab at the SciFax Center. So, we've got a number of different potential locations that hopefully, would be convenient to pretty much, any senior. In terms of, language impediments, we're already experiencing some of that, because some of the participants of the program, speak, primarily, Spanish. But, we've so far managed to sort of slog our way through. Linda's been doing a great job. But that is something that certainly I would want to discuss at this meeting that we're going to have hopefully in a week or 2 with Raul Matos and some of his instructors who teach computer skills in the Arlington adult education program, and see if any of those instructors, have other language skills, because that would really make them, ideal trainers for our program. Is there a long-term plan for paying participants $9.95 per month internet access fee to Internet Essentials? The answer is yes. We plan on paying those internet access fees indefinitely, as long as we believe that our participants are actually utilizing their laptop and are utilizing Internet Essentials. In order to do that, if we ultimately do get to 60 total participants, we're going to need to be successful in raising money, but we think success here breeds success. In other words, we think that we can go out and raise money from some of our donors, maybe even get, our donors to sponsor one or more seniors once we show them that the program is working, that we've got quote unquote graduates from our program, the things that they're doing with their new, computer and internet skills. But we're planning on, paying for internet, access for our participants indefinitely. How will we confirm that a participant's residence is wired for Comcast internet service? Well, we already do that. So as our grant application indicates, we help each of our participating seniors subscribe to Comcast Internet Essentials program. We're a sponsor under Comcast Internet Essentials Partners program. So when we give each of our participants a quote unquote promo code from Comcast, we then, typically by phone, help each of our participants sign up for Internet Essentials. Part of that sign up process involves Comcast confirming that indeed the place where our participant lives is in fact wired for Comcast. If not, there may be some sort of a workaround. Comcast, by the way, is also, much like Raul Matos and much like Arlington's 55 Plus program, are big supporters of our program, and they want us to succeed. Comcast clearly is interested in seeing seniors generally, particularly in certain geographic locations such as the Washington, D.C. area, are really interested in seeing seniors gain technology skills and access to the internet. So, Comcast will do everything they can to make sure that where our residents live are wired for Comcast. But, Comcast has, pretty good service throughout the county. And as I said, it's just part of the process of signing up for Internet Essentials that Comcast confirms that their residence or their apartment building is wired for internet service.
I just wanted to give you a quick notice that you've got about 2 minutes left. So maybe see if we have any other questions from the review committee before we move on. It looks like Mary Claire's got a question.
Okay.
Mary Claire, you might need to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I thought I did. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really curious, since it sounds like some of the seniors who you plan to train will be the most vulnerable for scams that reach out to seniors. What are your plans for training and long-term support to make sure that they don't get scammed?
Well, I think as David mentioned, that is part of our training program, is to, alert, as they progress and as they get more comfortable with using a laptop and accessing the internet. Part of our training program is indeed to, instruct, seniors about, what they should be looking for in terms of, phishing and spear phishing and, all the other horrible things that are out there. And again, that, presumably that's something that we would talk to, what I believe is going to be our source of paid trainers. That is the folks who Raul Matos is going to bring to the table from Arlington Community Learning to make sure that that's part of, that these trainers that, are experienced in, conveying to people who are learning computer skills just what to look out for in terms of scams and phishing attacks and all that kind of stuff. Because absolutely, not having any experience on the internet, you're right. I mean, these people could potentially be vulnerable. Currently, Linda Scholl is doing that because she's sensitive to the issue as well. But Linda's, as I said, just doing this on a volunteer basis. She's one of our board members, and she's not the long-term solution to our training issue. Should I keep going?
Yeah, sure. If there's another question that you want to address, just really quickly, because it looks like you only got about 5 seconds left. Oh, well, maybe, okay. You know what? I think maybe unless there are any other questions from the committee, I'm not seeing any raised hands, although Nicole, you came on camera for a second. Did you have something that you wanted to ask?
Hey, yeah, I was curious if you work with the Arlington Neighborhood Village I know they have a large group of people that might be interested in this.
Yeah, we actually mentioned Arlington Neighborhood Village several times in our grant application. We've had a Zoom call with Wendy Zenker, who's the director of Arlington Neighborhood Village, and we have forwarded to her, all of the documents and our user guide that's associated with our program. So she's very familiar with what she's doing. Unfortunately, unlike Culpeper Garden, which has referred, I think, half a dozen seniors to our program. Unfortunately, we haven't gotten any referrals yet from Arlington Neighborhood Village, but that's sort of good news, bad news. We actually have enough participants given, that we only have one sort of volunteer trainer at this point. But once we grow the program, yes, we've already established a relationship with Arlington Neighborhood Village, and we intend to try to, get them to refer seniors to us.
Thanks so much, Howard. So just as a reminder, if you could submit the rest of the answers to the questions that were submitted in Zoom grants by Friday,
Right.
and so then the review committee can look at those before the end of the week. That would be really helpful. But thanks again for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. And if there are any other questions, we'll also let you know that they were added.
Great. Yeah, we will definitely submit answers in writing to the 9 questions. I got through 7 of them, not bad. And thanks again for the opportunity.
No problem. Thank you so much.
All righty. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, I think we will just get going since Marta is here. We'll get going and move on to the next presentation. And our next applicant is Arlington Retirement Housing Corporation, and they're requesting $47,786 for their tablet technology training and support program. And this program, they're aiming to improve the technology and digital literacy of low-income senior residents at Culpeper Garden. Residents will have the option to enroll in 3 different courses that will be designed to meet their needs and their level of technology proficiency. So Marta, before you get started, just a quick overview of the process for tonight. You're going to have 15 minutes total. Try to leave 5 to 10 minutes for your presentation and 5 minutes at the end for Q&A. I'm going to be timing you, so you'll see the timer on the screen, and it'll be there to remind you how much time you have left. If you could address some of the questions that were sent to you in advance during your presentation, that would be very helpful. And I will also be advancing the slides for you, but while we are why don't you go ahead and get started, and I'm going to pull up your presentation right now.
Okay, I'm going to flip back and forth to the grant. So I just wanted to thank you all today. This is an ambitious program, and we are excited to be considered. What happens to the participants because many of our residents are so low income that they don't have the resources to purchase a device. And one of the things that prompted this was that we're having a lot of issues with residents coming to resident services and other staff having not knowing what to do with any of their devices. Many who don't have a device but need one to have a telehealth appointment or some other way to connect to their families. They get free phones, but sometimes those don't work. So there's a tremendous amount of need, and it's apparent to us, the entire staff, that we need to remedy this in some fashion. And we do have a computer lab, and E-Trade has been helpful over the years, but with the pandemic, they weren't able to support us, and many of our residents don't even dare go down there. So we have a long way to go. So that's one, is to provide residents a tablet and start them from the very beginning and train them on the tablet. It's a 12-week course. We're working with Marymount, and we're also going to provide them a guide, and it'll be a printed guide. So many of them are very comfortable with that, and they'll be able to write in it and take notes and refer to it. And then the second 12-week program is in fact for people who have a device and have familiarity. And it is an a la carte series of classes that cover various topics. And then the third program is with Arlington Neighborhood Village, and it's tutoring, and it will be through their volunteers. They are part of the AARP OATS program. So we'll be able to use some of that background with them, as well as we're going to share the handbook with all of our participants in the program. So first question is based on the previous program criteria, most certificate I'm sorry. What happens if participants do not complete the 12-week course? Do they get to keep the device? And is my colleague Diane Murphy here tonight? Is she on?
Yes, I'm on.
Okay. I'm going to read the question, Diane, and you had answered it, but perhaps since Diane is going to be in charge of, and her team are going to work with us on these two programs. And the question, Diane, is what happens if the participants do not complete the 12-week course? Do they get to keep the device?
I think we have to play it by ear. If it's week 11, no problem. Week 2, the answer is no. So, we have to be a little empathetic about the situation of the residents. So, as I said, generally no, but maybe if they're further on in the program.
And Diane we had a correspondence about this, and she had indicated that most certificate programs require at least a 75% pass rate. And so I think that that's probably a good benchmark for us. Mm-hmm. And I think that the other thing that we're going to be doing, and I think that our resident population, this is going to resonate with them, is we're going to have benchmarks of achievement for them. And they really, right now especially, that's very meaningful to them to accomplish this. A lot of them, of course, did not, all of them, none of them grew up with devices and this kind of communication device. So it's a big deal. And whenever we have awards and we have different things at Culpeper Garden, the residents get really excited about that. And so this is a really meaningful opportunity. The other question, is there a possibility of implementing the Marymount programs earlier in the year? Will the July-August timeframe be a challenge for Marymount? And we're focusing on having the classes line up with the school schedule. So I think in the grant and I'll answer this in writing to you, but we had thought that we would start in the fall and do a fall program and then do a spring program. And that should line up with the students. Diane, did you want to speak to that?
No, initially we were going to do some work on the manual and the documentation, and then we'll start the courses in the fall.
That's right. And then, is it possible to tap existing resources to create the handbook? Will all course participants receive a copy of the handbook, or is this just for the course instructors? If not, what handout materials will be provided? Diane?
Yes, no, we have lots of materials, obviously. I actually run a program for the Falls Church Senior Center, where I've been doing for 5 years, teaching the elderly how to use tech. So we have a lot of materials already prepared. The students will each receive a manual. As Martha said, they really relate to that, and they'll be able to write their notes in it.
Will the program be exclusively in person and at Culpeper Garden? Is there a plan to extend this program more widely? The answer is yes. It will be exclusively in person. It's really a beta for our particular population. We would love to extend this more widely. We work with Leading Age Virginia, which is senior facilities, nonprofit senior facilities statewide and nationwide. And I think that we have an incredibly great opportunity to share it that way, and then also to share it within the community in Arlington. So that would be my goal. Diane, did you want to add anything to that?
No, as I said, we want to make this a really good pilot and identify, how to get the elderly people, not just using technology, but safely using technology. This question came up before. Really and truly, we want to emphasize, how to avoid issues for some of these non-digitally related individuals.
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize that we have it's a big concern for our residents at Culpeper Garden. They don't have much. And so when there are, and they're easily seduced by things. So knowledge is power in this case. And we are really looking to give them more tools in their toolkit to really navigate all these things out there in the world. What kind of ongoing internet technology support will be offered to those who have completed the program? We have a number of volunteers through Arlington Neighborhood Village. The college students, we have our own volunteers here in Arlington that come and volunteer at Culpeper Garden. We also have E-Trade, who has offered to continue the program of tutoring our residents and supporting them. They did for a few years, and since the pandemic, it's been very quiet. So we've really missed their support and their guidance. I also would argue that technology changes so quickly, we'll probably want to have a continuum of courses, so a continued relationship with Marymount and with Arlington Neighborhood Village and the AARP OATS program, I think will be very important to continue integrating these new technologies or new advances in technology to share and hone our residents' skills and aptitude and keep them engaged. Diane?
So that you did great, Martin.
All right. This question I think is important. The Alliance for Arlington Senior Programs has proposed a similar technology training program geared towards Culpeper Garden residents. How will these programs overlap and or complement one another? And I went to my resident services gal, Rebecca Pearson, who wrote them a letter, and she sent it to me before, and she said, are you comfortable with this? And I said, I am. Because, and I'll read you what she said to me. The Alliance for Arlington Senior Programs will provide greater internet access to residents who are in need. Culpeper Gardens technology program will complement this by providing tablets and education. The Alliance for Arlington Senior Programs has serviced a handful of Culpeper residents thus far and has been successful in connecting residents to the internet. So far, the residents utilizing this program already have their own devices. The current limitation we see is a lack of education around device use. Also, transportation. So to have it in-house, we think we're going to have additional traction. We're going to have repeats. We're going to really be able to retain the residents and keep them engaged because it's going to be down in our multipurpose room, and also the camaraderie and all of the engagement with other residents. Let me just see. Many of our residents are currently uninterested in reaching out to these other programs because they don't know how to use a device if they had it. So they're feeling anxious because they don't even know where to start. Those are my people. The Culpeper Garden program will be able to complement the Alliance program by providing a customized tablet to the resident and also in the resident's native language, which we will be doing, and support in learning this new program while utilizing the internet access provided by the Alliance for Arlington Senior Programs. So I think we are complementary. I think the people that are comfortable with their program may certainly continue, but we have almost 400 residents and we have many who will not leave the property still since COVID has joined the world, and they have mobility issues and transportation challenges. So I will send you the rest of that in writing. And then how many volunteers and volunteer in-kind hours will be donated? I will send you that as well, but we do have a very robust volunteer community. We are going to lean on Marymount for interns and students, and Diane, I'm guessing that's going to be an opportunity we can look to.
Correct, and as I said, we've been doing this at the Falls Church Senior Center, and our students love to go and teach the people who are there, who they identify as their grandparents, and have got a really great rapport.
So there's that, and I hope that the other questions I didn't cover, I will certainly send to you in writing. I cannot stress enough how critical this is for our resident population, the concerns that we have for their safety, their ability to have telehealth calls, to talk to their family, to have access to a book on a tablet, let me be clear, some have their own devices, but a lot of them are not comfortable with it. They bring it down to us and say, how do I get on a Zoom call? So I know the previous gentleman, I mean, we're singing the same song in many ways. I just have this population that is in dire need, and they're at different levels, which is why we have 3 tiers. So we have the tablet technology for those who don't have the means or have not been able to acquire a device, and it's something that they will earn. Others who have devices who need specific information and want to improve their skills or learn even how to use that. And then the others who want tutoring, who need more one-on-one. Many of my residents are going to really respond to one other person directly. So I just want to take advantage of all the resources and really immerse our population in this initiative, because they've been asking for it and the staff is not equipped to support them.
Thanks so much, Marta. I just want to leave a little bit of time for questions if there are any from the review committee.
And also, I was not fair to Diane, and I did not introduce her. So if she wants to give us 30 seconds, I'd be happy to allow her that. I just dove right in. So apologies, Diane.
That's fine. But the one thing I would like to add is the diversity of our students. And I think that's a very important part of this, that our students can teach in many of the languages of the people at Culpeper Gardens. And I think that's a really important thing, that we identify by language as well as by being there.
Excellent point. Yes. So Spanish, we have Amharic, and we have Korean and Vietnamese. So we're a very diverse population.
Just one last call from, oh, go ahead, Laura.
No, sorry, I was just going to ask if anybody else had any final questions. If I see no hands, but I could ask one really quick question if that works for you guys. Apologies if I missed this. What does the internet infrastructure look like at Culpeper Gardens? Or is it, is the building Wi-Fi enabled? Do folks have their individual internet connections? And how do you tap into that if you're providing them with a device so that they can get on the internet?
We improved our internet this year, and I have a commitment from the board that if we need to boost it as a result of all the new usage, that we have the money for that. We'll find the money, but we have improved it enormously, and so our Wi-Fi is very strong currently, and we are prepared.
Great, thanks.
Great. Well, yeah, thanks so much for joining us, Marta. I think we will move on to the next applicant. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Diane.
Sorry, Laura, I keep cutting you off there.
No worries, you're doing great.
Okay, so I think maybe we'll go to the next proposal, which is Northern Virginia Dental Clinic, and I think Rhoda is going to be introducing that one. Rhoda, I don't know, you might be muted if you're already speaking up.
Okay, hi. Am I okay now? Yes?
Yep, I can hear you.
Hello, everyone. Thomas Wilson is with us from the Northern Virginia Dental Clinic. The request is for $22,000. And the program, as we know it, provides comprehensive oral healthcare services to low-income and uninsured clients through a collaborative public-private partnership with local governments, volunteer dentists, and designated social service providers. The goal of the program is to restore patients to a functional state of oral health free from infection, to educate and also to educate individuals on the importance of maintaining proper dental care and using proper home care techniques. We've also included quite a few other highlights. New this year, the program coordinates with the Arlington Free Clinic and DHS. That's not necessarily new. They have been doing that over the years. And we have some information on the number of volunteer hours and their contribution, etc. Hello, Tom. This evening, you're probably familiar with our process. You have 15 minutes to present and highlight your program and also to address the questions, please. And also, if you could leave about 5 minutes at the end for any other additional questions from committee members. There will be a timer for your guidance. So you may go ahead.
Oh, Tom, I think you're muted still. I think you still might be muted. I can see you trying to speak, but I can't hear you, unfortunately. Tom, would you be able to dial in with your phone? Just so you can get the audio? Oh. I think you might need to unmute yourself again. Nope, I still can't hear you. Are others able to hear Tom, or is it just me?
No, I can't hear him. I don't know if he can hear us either.
I think it looks like he's trying to dial in.
Okay. Hello.
Hey, Tom. Yep, we can hear you now.
You can hear me now?
Yes. You might need to turn off the audio on your computer, on your Teams app on your computer.
Okay. Yep. I can't shut that off.
Hold on. You know what? Give me a second. Let me mute you on your computer. Oh.
Thank you. Sorry.
Let's mute you here and see if that works.
Is that okay?
Yes, there we go.
All right. Thank you. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
Oh, we're still having that echoing. I don't know what's going on there.
And that sounds like it's on my computer. All right.
So maybe he just wants to turn the computer off and just do audio.
Yeah, I think, Tom, if you wanted to just present from your phone, since we can hear you from that device, and then I'll be flipping the slides on my end. I know you won't be able to see it, but you can just tell me when you want to go to the next slide, if that works for you.
That will work for me.
Okay.
All right. So first, let me say thank you very much for the opportunity to present tonight to the advisory committee. The NVDC has partnered with Arlington County since its inception in 1994. The Northern Virginia Dental Clinic is the oldest oral health safety net in Northern Virginia. We serve individuals, and we partner with Arlington County, Fairfax County, Loudoun counties, and the cities of Alexandria, Fairfax, and Falls Church. Originally, it was the vision of members of the Northern Virginia Dental Society decided to put this program together. Back in 1994, there was no such oral health care program for adult population. There was, of course, the state Medicaid program, which took care of children, but there was nothing for adults. Since then, we have partnered with the county since our inception in 1994, as I said. Our goal is to restore individuals to an infection-free and functional state of oral health. That is our focus, is functional restoration, not so much cosmetic dentistry. And secondary, our goal is to educate individuals on proper oral hygiene so that they can better maintain an optimal level of oral health. Our program does offer a very comprehensive menu of services. We will see that list of services when we turn to page 2. If you'd like to do that, please. Advance the slide. Advance the slide one more time. I'm sorry. So this is the menu of services up there in the upper right-hand corner, from basic examinations or comprehensive examinations, which include oral cancer screenings and intraoral and extraoral radiographs. And we also have a 3D or a CBCT scanning device, which is a great diagnostic tool. We lay out detailed treatment plans, and we discuss those plans with every patient. And then we provide restorative, oral surgery, hard and soft tissue biopsies, endodontics, perio, prosthetics, and oral prophylaxis, which is cleanings. Beyond that, we do emergency intervention, and of course, as I mentioned, patient education is very important to us. I'm glad we're on this slide because this photo here, the before and after, is a gentleman, is an Arlington County resident that we served. We started his care in 2020, and we finished it up a little earlier this year. And you can see the before, and this is how he came to us. And there's a couple conditions that you cannot tell that he has, but we sent him out of here. I believe it was late May, early June was his last appointment in that infection-free and functional state. And as our sign says there, oral health care is basic, but it is an essential part of health care. Oral health, scientifically, there is a lot of evidence that shows that oral health care is directly linked to many medical conditions and the onset of other conditions, most notably probably diabetes. Sort of as a revolving door with diabetes and oral health. The diabetes affects the oral health, and the oral health affects the diabetes. So there's many other medical conditions as well. And so I just wanted to provide this before and after to show you sort of what a lot of our clients show up looking like and what they leave looking like. We also have a number of Arlington County patients. It seems per capita, probably more than any other jurisdiction. We get a lot of patients who end up needing biopsies and oral cancer or other malignant conditions that have to be treated. Now, when we get those patients, we have the means, primarily because I've been here for 25 years as the director. I know a lot of people, and we have a lot of oral surgeons and endodontists and even medical people that I have gotten to know over the years, and we make arrangements for these folks to get treatment either in Virginia Hospital Center, or we get them down to Virginia Commonwealth University Hospital, or even up to Maryland. And so and we make all those arrangements for them, and they get their treatment. And some have need to have some pretty meaningful surgeries done. So, but it gets them in a better quality of life. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is that beyond the dentistry that we perform on all of our clients, we also serve as a extramural clinical site for about 7 different institutions, ranging from the University of Louisville and North Carolina Chapel Hill to locally here with VCU, Howard University, University of Maryland, whereby their dental students come to the clinic to gain valuable clinical experience prior to graduation. We also host students from the local community college with the dental hygiene program, and then there's a number of dental assisting training programs whereby their students come in at the end of their programs, once again for some clinical experience. So we're into the assistance of helping educate the next wave of doctors, the next generations of doctors and hygienists, and we're happy to be part of that. Last but not least, if you can show the last slide, I just wanted to let everyone see sort of where we're at as far as the usage by Arlington County. Now, prior to July, the prior fiscal year that's not shown here, Arlington County residents utilized a little over 1,000 appointments that particular year. And then COVID hit and touched all of us. And you can see that in the year of July of 19 through June of 20, we dropped all the way down to 669. And in this past year, we still had some things to get beyond recovering from COVID. And we were at 652, so in the same neighborhood. But as you can see down there, I showed the first quarter of our current year. And we have 264 as a total for our first quarter. So we're anticipating being back up about 1,000 appointments being utilized by Arlington County residents in the current year. And so some of the things, since I mentioned COVID, back in March of 2020, of course, dental practices throughout this Commonwealth was shut down, except for emergency procedures only. We continued to provide emergency services here, and in the 2 months that we were down, we served about 64 emergencies in that time frame. And then starting June 1st of 2020, we started our 3 phases of reopening, and brought back more and more procedures as we went from one phase to the next. We went back to full operations as of September 6th of 2020, and we've been operating at that capacity since. The one other grave impact that we've had because of COVID, of course, was the decline in the number of volunteers, professional volunteers. They are trickling back. However, we are still far beyond or far below what we were prior to the pandemic. But we're working on that. We're trying to reach out to the dental professionals throughout the area to come back to us as professional volunteers, and we are having success. We work very closely with the Northern Virginia Dental Society and the Northern Virginia Dental Hygienist Association, and they have not been having on or in-person community continuing education programs. This Friday, the Dental Society is having its first, so we will be in attendance, and we will certainly try to encourage those dental professionals to start coming back and providing some time and skills. So that's about it. As far as my presentation, I want to leave time for questions. I did check the site, and I did not see any formulated questions for me. And so if anybody has questions, I'd be happy to reply.
All right, thanks, Tom. Any questions for Tom about his presentation? Looks like somebody's got a question. Let me figure out the teams. Oh, Rolf, go ahead.
Thanks for your presentation. How often can clients come back, and or is there not a limit on their use of this service?
Okay, so the one thing that's nice about our program, or I think is nice, especially in these days where we're talking about inclusion and equity, is that we do not determine who we treat. All patients are referred to us by a network of agencies designated by the local jurisdictions. For Arlington County, that's the Department of Human Services and also the Arlington Free Clinic. So those are the two referral sources to our facility. Clients' eligibility is good for 1 year, which we think is more than adequate to address a pretty routine treatment plan. If it goes beyond that, the patient just simply gets requalified through the agency, the referring agency, and they're back with us again, and we just continue the care that we originally treatment planned.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have questions?
Looks like Mary Claire might have a question.
Oh, thanks, Caitlin.
I don't have a question. Maybe I need to take, hold on. Yeah, it won't come off.
It's fine.
Oh yeah, you just put your hand down.
And if no other questions, maybe I can ask one.
Sure.
I know you mentioned in this slide we're looking at the number of no-shows for appointments, which, you know, to be expected in various circumstances. Just wondering if you have any creative solutions or, you know, creative follow-up, or what kind of efforts you make to kind of connect with those people and minimize the no-shows or get them in at a later date for an appointment.
Well, we do try to make every effort, either working through social workers and caregivers, the patients themselves, to get them in and remind them of appointments, and give them opportunities to come in to have their care. Ultimately, that's why we're here, is to give them treatment and to enhance their oral health. And so we do everything possible. But in actuality, it is not uncommon in the private sector for no-show rates to be anywhere from 12 to about 20%. Historically, in my 25 years here, we have never been over 10% as a no-show rate as an organization. Now, there's some jurisdictions that run a little higher and some a little bit lower. Alexandria runs probably the highest, but one of their referring agencies is their mental health program over there, and so there's a little bit greater of rationale on why those appointments are being missed. But once again, we work very closely with caseworkers in order to try to minimize those no-shows.
Thanks. And
You're
looks
welcome.
like we have time for maybe one more question if anybody has one.
I will say, if we're waiting for another question, that we are not seeking any additional funding over last year. We're requesting the same level of funding that we received from the county the prior year, and those monies are used for, to cover our general operating expenses of materials and things like that we use that are directly related to rendering care.
Well, thank you, Tom. And I think that's all the time we've got today.
Okay.
And who's on deck to introduce our next
Thank you.
applicant?
I believe that's me. And while I'm getting everything set up, I will just make sure, Marta, do you have, is it just going to be you or is anyone joining you this evening?
I'm solo on this one.
Okay. So just give me 1 second while I pull up your proposal summary sheet. And just for everyone's benefit on the review committee, I think we're going to try to take a break between this proposal and the next proposal. So just keep that in mind, that after this, after we're finished with this next proposal, we'll be taking a 5-minute break. And just give me 1 second while I pull up your presentation. All right, so our next applicant is the Arlington Retirement Housing Corporation, and they're requesting $26,285 for their Fitness and Food for Seniors project. And this would provide low-income seniors residing at Culpeper Garden and programs in exercise and movement instruction, along with nutritional education about food, including how best to prepare and store it and how to make the best choices based on their current health status. So Marta, I think just a quick reminder, you have 15 full minutes. Try to leave the last 5 minutes for Q&A from the committee. I'm going to be timing you, and since you already have done this once this evening, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Do you have my few slides?
I do. I'm pulling them up right now.
Okay, great. Great. Thank you. My timer is right in the middle of my slides.
Yeah.
Our Fitness and Food for Seniors is a program that is more relevant now than ever. Many of our residents have been on their own during this pandemic and sequestered in their apartments and then sequestered in the building. So this is something that we have come up with, knowing that many of our seniors do not have regular exercise. There's no program. Some of them have physical therapy, but our goal really is to provide them an ongoing series of programs that they can engage in, can learn, can accomplish, and actually measure their success. So if we could go to the next slide, just to quickly recap, we're going to have trained instructors, evidence-based programs, and we're also going to provide two of these programs to our assisted living population. And all our residents are not the same. The assisted living people need more care, but they tend not to be able to take advantage of as many programs. They have the same issues in terms of falling and strength and need to move and food education around food. So we've got a couple of different programs that are going to be for both populations, our independent living, who tend to be younger and in better shape, and then assisted living. But those people, we have some that still drive and walk, but many who could use a lot of strength training and additional fitness. So the program's going to run 36 weeks, Sail and Lift. Those two programs will be in both facilities. The next slide, please. So again, evidence-based programs, certified instructors. We are doing nutritional information, and I think a lot of our residents just don't pay attention. And I said to somebody the other day, if you're 87 and you want to eat Cheetos, who am I? But I do think that some of them need to be able to mind their salt. We have a ton who are pre-diabetic. And one thing I didn't put in this proposal is Virginia Hospital has a pre-diabetes program, and they have offered to come at no charge and provide that to our residents as well. So we would insert that into this curriculum. And then the benefits. One of the things that I think is so important to talk about is a sense of accomplishment for our residents. I think a lot of times they give up, their family gives up. And next slide, please. And so I like the idea of somebody coming in to motivate them and share with them opportunities for them to build their strength, to actually get a little arm strength and to be able to stand up out of their wheelchair, that kind of thing. Also, it prevents falls. We have statistics that show it cuts back on hospitalizations, etc. One of the questions, I'm going to just jump, guys, to on the grant proposal, and it's on this slide. So if you don't mind, I'd like to show you some of the documents that we have for intake. So here's a pre-program survey, and I will share this with you. I can't attach it to the grant, but it gives you an idea. And we have individuals, we're going to be working with Aisha from VCE to go through all this and ask all the questions of the residents so that we get a really good way to measure and document for ourselves and to document the benefits of the program, but also for the residents to get the sense of accomplishment. So there's another slide. There's pre-program 2 pages, and then there's post-program 2 pages. So that will give you an idea, and I'm happy to share in depth more about what those look like. Are there other slides with this? I think we have, yeah. So more information, post-program for them to fill out. So it's pretty specific and it's pretty thorough. And we ask them, what are you doing now? How much exercise are you getting? How many hours a day? How many do you sit? That kind of thing. And then the next slide. This is around the food and use. So this is another thing where we ask residents, how are you eating? Do you shop? That kind of thing. And then this would be, of course, for our independent living. Okay, so back to the grant questions. There was a question regarding food service at Culpeper Garden, and I wanted to share, let's see, yes. Do residents of Culpeper Garden Independent Living eat at the Culpeper Garden dining facilities, or do they shop and cook for themselves? Is this program likely to affect Culpeper's dining options? That's a great question. I talked to the team about that, and I talked to our dining services. And so we do have about 40 who are on a food subsidy on the food program out of 293. And then we have, and I don't have the exact number of the additional people who are paying for it. But I would argue that I don't think it's more than 75 people total. Some people buy a couple lunches a week or a couple dinners, but we have a younger population at Culpeper Garden now because we did the renovation, and we have a lot of new residents, and they tend to skew younger and they want to cook their own food. So I think that even people who are on the food program, some of them do provide their own meals from time to time. They're not 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. And I'm worried that they don't smell that food, that, they keep it too long and they eat it, or they don't throw it away. They don't have good food literacy, if you will. So there's a lot about that that I think will be beneficial, and to tie food is medicine and food to life with the fitness. I think it's going to be a lovely combination to integrate their thinking around it. Also, our friend Charlie at AFAC has offered to share some food with us, to donate some food, so that for the samples and the preparation, we would be able to share that with the residents. So that's also another bit of good news. We are going to be doing Spanish for our non-English speakers, and quite often, certainly with the movement, if we can get two or a few people that speak the same language, sometimes we've got a chance to engage them more. So we may go back to our volunteer population and see if we can get some volunteers to help, especially with some of our residents who are interested. I'm very excited to see how many people we're going to recruit. Clearly, clarify whether lift sale or bingo size or similar programs would be new offerings or were offered pre-pandemic. Can you share the program pre and post information? So I shared those with you. And we did do Dee, our resident fitness expert. Dee did the sale training. And so lift is new. Bingo size, we tried bingo size virtually, and we tried it one time during the pandemic with Galari and at the county, and it was not the same. We just didn't have a great response. But bingo is so big at Culpeper Garden that we're thinking that we could tie that in and it will be a hit. So some of these programs are new, but the sale we have done it in the past. So we will be picking that up and growing that. Let's see, do we plan to expand these programs and make them available to the overall Arlington 55 community? Absolutely. I would be delighted to expand that to the 55 plus. You know, we're all vaccinated. We're getting our booster shots tomorrow. And if people are vaccinated and can come into the building to the degree that, you know, we can work all that out, I think that we would be delighted to. And we'd be delighted to share our findings and to share our story, to see what worked, how we got traction with residents. We do have little awards because we have found that our residents love to, a prize is a big deal at Culpeper Garden, and so it's a real achievement. And I think a lot of times as people get older, they're not able to get a big sense of accomplishment. So for us, that is a wonderful thing to offer them. Let's see, what else did you want to know? Oh, existing staff. Okay, here we go. What's the benefit of training existing staff and volunteers as opposed to hiring a trainer who can provide a variety of offerings to Culpeper Garden residents based on need? Great question. The reason that we put some staff members into the training is we've picked up a couple volunteers, so we might move a couple of our staff members out. But what we found is if the instructor can't come that day, the residents are really sad. And I don't want to lose the enthusiasm and the momentum that we will build. And also we have found that when the staff shows up, even if it's one of us, residents really like it. They love to have our energy and they like to see us engaged in these programs. So I think it's really important that someone who's around knows how to teach this class. But let me just say that a certified instructor that we pay is certainly preferable. But I also think that to have some knowledge in the building so that we can carry on and continue would be very, very valuable in a situation like this. So that is the thing. We are going to hire a trainer for many of these programs, and then going on further, we'll see. But if some of us are trained, we can pick up the in-betweens, and if there's weather or something like that, we're able to participate. Let's see.
Maybe would it make sense to maybe try to take some questions from committee members if there are any before we move on to any of the other questions?
Yeah, sure. Okay, I'm great. Just blabbing.
No worries. I just wanted to make sure that if anyone had any questions that they, oh, Rolf, go for it.
Yes, I was interested in the question of incentives and follow-up, and how do you determine whether people are actually participating that should be participating, and how do you evaluate the effects of the programs for residents?
Well, there are metrics and measurables that our instructors and these programs have built in. So it's going to be strength, ability. Let me just say, for some of our residents, showing up and participating is a victory right there. So there are metrics. These are evidence-based programs. So they are designed to be able to measure aging populations and seniors who may not progress as quickly as a younger population. So those things are in place and are measured and registered at every class. Is that a sufficient answer?
Yeah. Do you have any problems with residents just not showing up or not wanting to participate?
Yes, we do. I'm afraid that's the case. We do have our on-site physical therapists have offered to come in and observe with us as well, because I think that will be beneficial to see who could use additional physical therapy, possibly who is a fall risk, that kind of thing. So just getting them out and engaged, I think, is going to be very helpful for a lot of the people who work in the building and care for these residents. But to keep them coming, it's the incentives of a water bottle, a towel, and some of our PT group will provide that and donate that. Goodies.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, maybe do you want to go to the next question, Marta, while some other committee members think of other questions?
Let's see. The volunteer in-kind hours and whatnot. I guess that I'll put that in writing. Let's see. Oh, will the programs be in person or virtual or both? I'm hoping they're both, because I want to get as many people out of their apartments. This pandemic has just set our residents back more than I can share with you. So a chance for them to get out and move is just profound. But it may be that they start on virtual. And of course, that would be Marta that was here an hour ago saying those who have devices and can watch virtually. But I will say that I'm hoping they come down to our multipurpose room and engage physically. That's going to be my first choice. And I know at assisted living, they all gather in one area. So we have a place for them to all come. Any other questions? We have language. I think that's it, guys. I appreciate your time.
Are there any other questions?
I'll yield my time to the break. 17 seconds.
Okay. Well, as long as there aren't any other questions from committee members. I'm not seeing any. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Marta. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. So, Alex and Tom, I'm guessing you guys are with the next applicant, the Fenwick Foundation. All right. Yes. Well, we're gonna take a quick 5-minute break, and we will be back in. I'm gonna set a timer, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes.
That sounds good. Thank you. See you then. tell us stay here.
All right. Well, I think we are ready to move on to our next applicant, and Rhoda is going to be introducing this one. Rhoda, you might be muted.
And I got a good way too. All right, good evening, gentlemen. We have Tom Fonseca and Alex Gorney representing the Fenwick Foundation, and the proposal is for $30,000 to provide an adult dental access prevention and treatment program known as ADAPT for the Arlington community. The Fenwick Foundation was founded in 2011 to improve the lives of older adults living in nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and at home. And since 2015, the ADAPT program has treated about 549 patients, performed 970 checkups, and quite an extensive number of procedures. So the program's aim is to provide free dental treatment services for older adults, residents of 2 Arlington assisted living facilities, Culpeper Gardens, and Mary Marshall assisted living residents. Gentlemen, this evening our process involves a 15-minute presentation. If you can spend about 10 minutes either addressing questions and giving us program highlights, and then the last 5 minutes you can open it up to the committee if they have additional questions, and there's a timer for your guidance. So you may proceed.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Fonseca. I'm the chairman of the Fenwick Foundation. And with me tonight is Alex Gorney, Fenwick's executive director. We very much appreciate the opportunity to present and discuss our Project ADAPT proposal for funding. A little bit of background on the Fenwick Foundation. Next slide. The Fenwick Foundation is an Arlington-based 501c3 public charity, and we focus on life quality, health, and well-being in ways that are not addressed or under the radar. And we'll explain more about what that means as we proceed with our presentation. Next slide. These are some photos, and they're recent photos of program participants enjoying one of our, or many of our activities. We have a very active and pervasive Enriching Lives activities program, which obviously was on hold during the pandemic with quarantines and lockdowns, but with the relaxation of social distancing requirements and other rules at particularly at long-term care facilities, residents are starting to get out. And we all have our fingers crossed that this will continue. And it's nice to have the opportunity to provide these, what we consider world-class activities for our program participants. Next page, next slide. We also have a very active gardening program, and it's been particularly popular during the pandemic last year and even into this year, because it was one of the few and in some cases only activities that allowed residents to get out of the building. Our program provides the resources to buy plants and soil and tools, and then allows those passionate about gardening to go about and create nature's beauty. Next slide. We went virtual during the pandemic. We created a wide range of curated virtual activities utilizing the powers of the internet. And we were pleasantly surprised at how much was out there. And as the pandemic progressed, the sophistication of the offerings became greater and greater. And the other surprise for us was that we were able to go worldwide with respect to providing opportunities for virtual safaris, musical performances, museum tours, and much, much more. And the photo here of the Louvre in Paris brings to mind the guided tour that we had scheduled, curated for our program participants to basically tour the Louvre. And it was really super. But just one example of the many activities that we were able to provide during the pandemic to essentially try to address the isolation, loneliness, and depression which resulted for so many. Next slide. Our newest initiative is vision care and eyeglasses, where we're providing low-income older adults and others the opportunity to get professional checkups, new prescriptions, and new glasses. And this program has started in Arlington, and will continue as we progress. Next slide. Here's a roster of our Arlington partners. Next slide. Our proposal for funding is to expand treatment services, dental treatment services at Culpeper Garden and the Mary Marshall Assisted Living Residence. And the listing of procedures that you see on the right-hand side of the slide, it underscores that we're more than just a checkup and screening program. We provide comprehensive dental treatment, and we're continuously trying to make that even more comprehensive than what you see on the list here. Next slide. The highlighted organizations are our Arlington dental partners, and a word about partnerships with Fenwick in general and Fenwick with respect to this program. The key to our success with all the things that we do is the relationships and the working that we do with our partners, and so too with Fenwick's Project Adapt. The partners are involved in many aspects of the preparatory stages for dental clinics that we provide, as well as day of treatment and aftercare. Next slide. COVID impacted all of our programs, as I alluded to earlier. Our programs came grounding to a halt in March of 2020.
I think we might have just lost Tom.
Next slide, please.
Yeah.
This is an overview of our model, which is that we bring the dentist to the patient for those who are unable to get to a dental office for treatment. Basically, our program not only addresses financial challenges, but the logistical impediments to care. Getting to a dental office for treatment, ADA issues, transportation, other challenges, clinical needs. And we provide planning for and providing the scheduling for the day-long clinics on site at the long-term care residents that we serve. Here is our updated metrics. You had mentioned some of the others earlier, and these are our updated metrics as of the end of September. Next slide, please.
Alex, let me take over. Can you hear
Sure.
me? I think we have one other slide earlier.
I addressed that one, Tom.
Okay. So the last set of questions gets to, how does this project benefit Arlington? And obviously it benefits the patients. Quality dental care and creating a dental home for patients is something that most of the rest of us just take for granted with our health. And so it's important for the patients here to have improved oral health and hygiene, reduced pain and discomfort, improved ability to eat and enjoy food, improved overall health, and consequently improved and better quality of life and well-being. For the community, it provides quality dental care and treatment to our long-term spouses, parents, relatives, friends, and neighbors. And I think that's fundamentally what makes this program, and we're not obviously the only program, but makes this program beneficial. Next slide. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Alex to discuss and answer the questions that were posed with respect to our application.
Thank you, Tom. There were several questions that were asked about our program, and I'd like to start. We have prepared answers, and I'd like to start answering them. What is the projected impact of Medicaid expansion to include dental services on this proposal? Will this be a duplication of services? Most, roughly 75%, of the Culpeper Garden residents are not Medicaid patients due to qualification restrictions. Those who are Medicaid patients are not prioritized for treatment with ADAPT at this time. And while most of Mary Marshall assisted living residents are Medicaid patients, their cognitive and other disabilities have been a major impediment for their receiving dental treatment at a dental office. We saw this back in 15 and 16 when we started our program with Mary Marshall, providing treatments at dental offices. Mary Marshall patients were unwilling to keep their appointments, but have been receiving treatment with our on-site in-facility programs, sometimes showing up when they're not on the schedule, asking to see the dentist. Management of both facilities has advised us that scheduling and logistical issues have been a real and continuing deterrent to obtaining Medicaid services, and that the Fenwick model of bringing the dentist to the facility has been key to their residents receiving much needed dental services. Because of this, we see our program as adding much needed capacity to a unique demographic and not as a duplication of services. Lastly, while Medicaid expansion has added dedicated dental services to the roster of available Medicaid services, the list of dental professionals accepting large number of Medicaid patients has not yet grown to cover the capacity needed, while the need continues to grow. Next, if a need is identified that cannot be served through this program, do you make referrals to otherwise assist client in assessing the service, accessing? Yes, we are committed to providing level 1 and level 2 treatments. We make appropriate level 3 referrals and may cover costs if funding is available and the dental specialists accept Medicaid rates, which is different from accepting Medicaid patients. We also work with Mary Marshall and Culpeper staff to identify options for covering costs. Since our program started in 2015, we viewed our efforts as being focused on a unique niche population. We understand that while we may not be able to provide all dental services needed, we have been able to address some very substantial dental needs that have otherwise gone unmet. What type of denture services will Level 3 provide? We do provide and cover dental cleanings and adjustments and chairside denture relinings. For new denture needs, we make referrals to dentists who accept Medicaid patients and who accept Medicaid rates for non-Medicaid patients. There's a major challenge with Mary Marshall residents to get them this treatment, given the need to travel to a dentist office. Notwithstanding, most of the patients at both facilities do not need dentures. Next, what is the anticipated per client cost of this service, as it often ranges from $3,000 to $11,000? That's absolutely correct. The high cost of dentures is a challenge. Current Medicaid rates for dentures are significantly lower than commercial rates. They're typically in the $660 to $770 range. We also are following developing technological advances that promise to make dentures more affordable to populations like those we serve. Next, given that you seem to rely on volunteer dentists, how do you plan to increase recruitment to be able to provide proposed new services? We do not, I'll repeat, we do not rely on volunteer dentists. And please see our budget submission where we outline the cost of the dental services. In fact, despite substantial and repeated efforts, we, our board members, and even some of our dedicated grantors have been unable to successfully recruit any dentists as volunteers for these needed services. Most volunteer dental services, such as Mission of Mercy, are a one-day transactional clinic that do not provide a dental home for continuing treatment needed by the population. We determined that we needed a program that provided a fee-for-service dental professionals for our program. We've been able to recruit dental professionals who are interested in and attuned to the special needs of the unique population we serve. We've worked hard to negotiate discounted commercial rates for our program because we manage the planning, the scheduling, and special logistical arrangements needed for these patients. And we can assure the portable mobile dental practices that they will have a full day of dental appointments when they arrive for the dental clinics. Finally, you seem to have been providing services to Mary Marshall and Culpeper since 2015 and 2017, but this is the first time you've applied for this particular grant. Can you give us some background on that? Yes, we started our dental program with Mary Marshall in 2015 and Culpeper in 2017 with awarded local and regional grants. We funded our program with grants from organizations including Arlington Community Foundation, the Cigna Foundation, Delta Dental of Virginia Foundation, Dominion Guild Foundation, the Fowler Foundation, the Giving Circle of Hope, Innova Community Health Fund, Mousetrap Foundation, the Philip L. Graham Fund, which is the Washington Post founders, and also private contribution. In fact, as much as I hate to admit it, it wasn't until this year that we came to realize that the Arlington County Community Development Fund might consider funding a program such as ADAPT. And that is where we checked into the possibility, spoke with the representatives, and said, indeed, it might be a possibility. And here we are asking you to help us fund the program at these two very important Arlington facilities. Thank you very much. Any questions that we can answer?
All right, thanks, Alex and Tom. Any questions from the committee in our last couple of seconds? Right. It looks like we may not have any additional questions beyond what you've covered. So we thank you for your time and we really appreciate it.
With that in mind, we thank you very much for accepting
coming.
our proposal, and thank you for allowing us to speak with you tonight and go over our proposal with you.
Thank you so much. And just so you all know, if there are any additional questions that come up, they will be added to Zoom grants, and a member of staff will let you know if anything's added.
All right, thank you very much.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Too. Thank you.
All right. So Rolda, why don't you go ahead and introduce our next applicant while I pull up their PowerPoint. You might be on mute again.
I really apologize for this, folks. Very sorry. Legal Aid Justice Center is here this evening, represented by Kelly Salzman and Contessa Riggs. They are requesting $50,000 for the Immigrant Advocacy Program, and their program provides legal services, representation, outreach, and general education to low-income immigrants to assist with problems related to consumer exploitation, housing eviction, employment, primarily wage theft, and immigration. They are planning to provide 40 cases. 70 clients will be advised and referred to additional services. And they have been funded for quite a few years. Contessa and Kelly, welcome. Our process this evening is 15 minutes for the presentation. If you can take some time to answer the questions, if there are any questions, read them into your proposal and or spend the last 5 minutes receiving questions from the committee members. So, and there's a timer for your guidance, so you can proceed.
Hi, my name is Kelly Salzman, and I want to first say thank you very much for the opportunity to come and share some information about the great organization that I get to work for. I'm an attorney with the Legal Aid Justice Center, and as was mentioned, Contessa Riggs, who's one of our folks that helps us with development, is also with me to help answer any questions, but I'm going to be giving the presentation. And really just wanted to talk with you a little bit about why our proposal should be recommended for funding and what is so special and unique about the program that I have the opportunity to work for. I can say my career, I worked as an executive with the federal government. I just started with LAJC about 2 years ago, and I've never been prouder to work for an organization as I have for the one that I work for now. And the reason for that is why I think it's such a great investment. Our organization not only provides legal services, but we are a part of the fabric of the community. And the reason for that is that we work, we have community organizers on staff. We do important outreach organizing to make sure that we are working with the community to solve problems, most often from a legal perspective, but from a lot of other perspectives. As was mentioned, we provide services related to consumer cases, predatory debt collectors, and the like, as well as wage theft, employers, making sure that folks are getting paid by employers. Right now, very important is housing with evictions and making sure that we're getting rent relief and rental assistance to folks, and then also helping to represent them in court, and then also representation on some immigration matters. I particularly have the opportunity to work on consumer cases, which I love. And it's a really good example of why that community organization, why the working with the community to make sure that we are a part of the immigrant community that doesn't have a lot of trust in services. We have those community organizers to help us build trust. Most often when folks get a notice about a debt collection, whether it's from the court or otherwise, they often see that as a financial issue, as an issue that I don't have enough money to pay this bill, therefore something is wrong with me, or I'm just not going to be able to pay it. And there are protections, many protections around debt collections, and a lot of folks aren't aware of that, particularly folks in the immigrant community who may not speak English, may not understand, may fear that there are immigration consequences for debt, and may not know that they have access to be able to get help. I've represented clients in proceedings with debt buyers where the debt buyers weren't able to prove that they owed the debt, so we were able to get our clients out from underneath debt. I've been able to help negotiate reasonable payment plans for clients and a whole host of issues to make sure that we're able to provide the legal representation, but also the education and information to folks to help them then carry that forward in their lives. And I think that's why I'm so proud of the work that we do in our organization, because it's not just coming in with one legal problem and then leaving. It's really making sure that we are continuing to work with the community to identify those problems that exist and help find solutions to those problems. One of the questions that was in the group was, was in the website was about languages. So I'm bilingual, I speak Spanish and English. Most of my clients are in fact Spanish speaking. However, we do get clients that speak Arabic, that speak other Asian languages. I recently had a client who spoke Thai, and we're able to provide services in the same way as we would otherwise by using interpreters and language line and those services. So we would never in any way not provide service to somebody solely because they don't speak English or Spanish. We want to make sure that we are available, have information in languages that are accessible to more than just Spanish speakers. I can tell you recently I had a case that was in Arlington. It was an immigrant very afraid of engaging with the court system and had a number of debt collection cases against him in the Arlington General District Court. Not surprisingly, coming out of, there's been a lot of criticism of immigrants. There's a lot of fear in the community around coming out and asking for help. There's a lot of fear in the community even of going to court because they think they might get arrested or detained by ICE and those types of things. And so being able to come in, help clients, and in this particular case, there were, I think, 2 or 3 different lawsuits, I was able to end up getting all of them dismissed because the person that was suing either didn't have the documentation to show that a debt was owed, or in one case, the wrong person had been sued. So there are a whole host of issues. And so making sure that we're able to get in there, get involved in the case, and get the problem solved, I think really does benefit the community as a whole. I do consumer law, but the Legal Aid Justice Center does a whole host. We have recently hired, with the housing crisis, we've hired rent relief navigators who are actively helping folks get access to the rent relief that Virginia has to offer, and then pairing those folks with attorneys to make sure that where there are issues in our eviction cases coming in that are affecting our immigrant population, we're able to get involved, prevent homelessness, keep people housed. Wage theft, particularly, I think, folks, it's not a surprise to anyone that immigrants were and are among the essential workers that were continuing to work through the pandemic, and making sure where there was overtime that it was paid, where folks were working extra hours at restaurants and grocery stores and all of those places, that we're making sure that they are fairly compensated for the work that were done. That helps the Arlington community. It certainly helps the immigrant community. And I am so proud to be a part of the organization that gets to do this work and help folks. So that is the end of my presentation. I don't know if Contessa had anything to add, or if you all had questions, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Contessa. Anything from you?
It looks like there might be a raised hand.
Yep, looks like it. Tim, go ahead.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, I have to say this is just one of my favorites, and I believe it was in the proposal. But how much did you all recover for your clients last year? Your Arlington clients. I usually see that figure. I just can't recall what it is. I'm just curious. Thanks.
I'm going to defer to Contessa if she knows that. I'm looking through the proposal, but she may have that at her fingertips.
Well, so it's sort of a tricky question this year, quite honestly, because we took on the VEC over some just horrible unemployment stuff, just incompetencies around unemployment services. So if you count our work our work suing the VEC and getting them to come into line and to do what is right for people across Virginia who have been struggling through the pandemic. I think we actually this year, and I'm looking for the number too, but it was well over $500,000 in Arlington when you combine the unemployment with just our general wage theft and housing cases and the consumer cases.
Yeah, and how does that compare to previous years? I think I recall one year seeing a figure maybe in the 600s or even in the 800s. I'm just curious how that compares, that 500 figure.
So I think actually I'm pretty certain the figure you saw in 600 was actually for all of Northern Virginia and hadn't been broken down for just Arlington. I know, so I'm actually looking through the proposal, and yes, so it's about, not counting the VEC cases over the last 8 years, it's actually for Arlington specific, not the Northern Virginia area. It's about $700,000 in assets that have been recovered.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's just tremendous, and especially for the population that you're serving, that is majorly impactful. I just think it's a great story. It's one I would encourage you to tell very, very loudly. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mike, a question from you.
Yeah, good evening. This is kind of general interest, actually. As we know, things have changed in Washington over the last year or so, and I was just wondering how that has affected your work. Has your work become easier with the change in administrations, or is it still the same old challenge, just as tough?
So I think there are some things that maybe are a little easier, some things that remain challenging. So under the prior administration, particularly around immigration and public benefits, there was a tightening of attempts to enforce immigration laws and a lot of fear around ICE raids and those types of things. Also around the proposals to change what's called the public charge regulation, which is how folks, they evaluate use of public benefits and those types of things. And there was a lot of fear that came out of both of those that caused folks to not want to apply for benefits, even if they were entitled to them, or to come to court or to do those types of things. So there really has been a lot of education, and that's where the community organizing of LAJC really comes into play. There is making sure that we're continuing to build trust with the community to help bring them out. And so while those policies have changed, there still remains the fear that they could easily change back or those types of things. There's still a lot of animosity toward immigrants. And so I think that's one of the things that we're continuing to struggle. On the flip side, I think the rent relief and the availability of rent relief to help folks remain housed, and our ability to hire the rent relief navigators to get that money into those communities has really been helpful. I think also some of the other COVID relief and those types of things has been helpful to help keep people at least on the path. So I think there are some things that we're still feeling some of the effects from the prior administration, but we have hope going forward that it's going to continue to get better, particularly as we come out of the coronavirus pandemic, fingers crossed, and are moving back into hopefully a little bit more normal times. Did I miss anything, Contessa?
All right. Any other questions from the committee for Kelly and Contessa?
Well, again, thank you so much for having us. I love talking about LAJC, so thanks for the opportunity to do so.
Thanks so much. It was a pleasure to hear from you. Last call
Thank you.
for question. Great. Well, thanks, guys. Next up, I think we have Rolda introducing our next presenter.
Yes, hello. Erin and Stephanie are here from Just Neighbors Ministries representing the organization this evening, and their proposal, if I can just get this right here, yeah, they're requesting $50,000 for the Just Neighbors Immigration Legal Services. And this program provides legal services for low-income immigrants to obtain and renew work authorization documents, to have access to better jobs, working conditions, and higher wages, to build assets and increase self-sufficiency. The three main types of cases that they handle: employment authorization cards, green cards obtained through processing cases involving domestic violence, and lawful permanent residence verification documents for refugees and asylum families. And then we have information on a few highlights of the program as well as some outcomes. Erin and Stephanie, welcome.
Thanks.
This evening you have 15 minutes to make your presentation. If you can use the first 10 or so to highlight the program and answer any questions that might have been posed to you. And also if you can give at least 5 minutes so that committee members having additional questions can pose those questions to you. So you can proceed.
Thank you. Do I control the presentation or just tell you when I need the chart to move?
Caitlin is handling that aspect, so if you can let her know when to change.
Okay, you can go ahead and go to the first slide. My name is Erin McKinney. I'm the executive director of Just Neighbors. Stephanie Barnes is our operations director. And first of all, thank you for having us here tonight. We wanted to spend some time really just kind of explaining why you want to continue to support Just Neighbors. You have been an incredible funder for us and have helped us really make a difference for Arlington residents. Some of the reasons Just Neighbors is effective at what we do and why we're different than some of the other immigration legal service providers is that we help clients regardless of their ability to pay. We have a $100 consultation fee, but we waive that more than half of the time, and that is never an impediment to clients getting our services. And they pay no other fee to Just Neighbors for their particular casework. Most nonprofits operate on a sliding scale based on income level, and all of our clients are below 200%, so the poverty level, and probably 80% are below 100% of the poverty level. So we just don't let our fees be an impediment to clients getting the services they need. Second, we really leverage the funds that you give us. We have an extensive volunteer program, both on the legal and on the administrative side, which means we don't have to hire staff to do some of that work. It has been a bigger challenge during the pandemic, obviously, when we couldn't have as many volunteers and for a long period of time, no volunteers in the office. But we still used over 150 volunteers last year and are getting back to our normal volunteer levels, which means we're able to really do significantly more work because we can leverage those resources. Third, we have a really balanced income stream, and we have government grants, including Arlington County. We have foundation grants, and we have about 40% of our income comes from individual and faith-based community donations. And that really gives us the flexibility to respond to the needs of the community. So when, for example, for the few minutes that DACA, initial DACAs were reinstated, we were able to shift our resources to be able to try to handle as many of those as we could as quickly as possible, because all of our funds aren't tied up necessarily to specific grant requirements. And that really allows us to react to the needs of the community. And then lastly, not only do we fully screen every client that we take to identify all their possible options, we actually take the cases. A lot of the nonprofits in this area will do the screening part, but and it's an important part, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, but then they put it back on the client to find an attorney if they do have a potential immigration benefit. So the cases that when we take a client, we do a screening, and if they do have a pathway to any form of documentation, then we proceed and work with them to file those applications and get that documentation. So every case, every client that we take and we file generates a work permit or a green card, and protection from deportation, and it may in fact make other family members eligible for some of the same benefits. And if that's the case, we take those cases as well. So just to give you an example, if you can show the next slide, please. When when organizations do screenings, what a screening means is it's an assessment of the individual situation, and immigration law, it is a case-by-case situation. The attorneys, when people ask the attorneys, will I qualify? The answer is always, it depends, because there are so many nuances to the immigration law. So screenings are very important because they determine if there is any pathway and if what the potential pathways are. And sometimes there are multiple pathways. Some may be a temporary status, some may be a permanent status. If there's not a pathway, then usually what happens is the client's informed of their rights and are really, we try to educate them around protecting themselves from notarios and people who promise them things that they really can't deliver. It's a very vulnerable population who is desperately seeking documentation, so sometimes they get taken advantage of. If they do have a case, again, if it's an organization that's just doing the screening, then it really falls back on the client to have to find an attorney, be it another nonprofit or a private attorney. That work by itself is about 1 to 3 hours per client. If you go to a private firm, that can cost approximately $600 a month. You can go to the next slide, please. So when we do cases, we always do the screening. And if we do a case like DACA, most of you are probably familiar with DACA, which what DACA gives you is a promise not to deport. It gives you a work permit. It has to be renewed every 2 years, but this is a temporary status, meaning there is no pathway to citizenship via DACA. And so that takes about 3 hours of work. So in our caseload, DACAs are pretty easy cases relative to the amount of work it takes to do them. To go to a private attorney, they charge as much as $3,500 for a DACA. It also takes about 3 to 9 months from the time we actually file the case for it to actually get adjudicated. You can go to the next slide. A more complicated case is a U visa. A U visa is for victims of certain violent crimes. And what a U visa gives is, if it's approved, they get a work permit, and after that's valid for 4 years. After 3 years, they can actually apply for a green card. So this is a pathway to a permanent status. The current wait for U visas, because it's a limited number of visas each year, is somewhere around 10 years. This also comes with potential derivatives. So if they get approved, their family members are also eligible for the benefit. When we do these cases, when we find that as an option in the screening, we do not only the individual, but their family members who are eligible as well. If they go to a private firm, this will cost about $4,500. Next screen. An asylum case, as you can see, they're getting more complicated. Asylum case takes us about 80 hours of work. These are extraordinarily complex. I have seen some of the filings be as much as 4 or 5 reams of paper that have to be submitted with all the backup documentation. And when you file an asylum case, you have a year from the time they enter the country to submit that case. After a year, you can apply for a work permit that has to be renewed every 2 years. And once it's approved, which can take as long as 8 years, that's literally the backup now for asylum cases, then they can actually apply for the green card. And again, this is a permanent status. It is one of the harder cases to win, unlike things like DACA and even U visas, which the vast majority of, 99% of what we apply for and those are approved. Asylum is always a harder one to succeed at. Even in good cases, there's a much higher refusal rate. To get a private attorney to do this, it's about $8,500, and we hear almost $10,000 is not an uncommon rate for that. And again, it's an extraordinarily complicated case. And lastly, if you go to the next slide, one of the things we're hearing a lot about these days are the unaccompanied minors, which the technical name is unaccompanied alien child. There's actually 4 cases involved for every unaccompanied minor. In addition to the screening, they're usually eligible for what's called a special immigrant juvenile visa. This is a 2-part case because you have to go to family court and get a predicate order in separation from their parent, and then you have to file the special immigrant juvenile visa. They're often also eligible for asylum. And the reason you do both is because with the juvenile visa, it's a 2 to 4 year wait for that visa to become available. If they have asylum, then you can again get the work permit earlier. The other part of this case is the removal defense, because they are in removal proceedings as soon as they come into the country. So again, this is a very time-consuming case. Cost to go to get all of this through a private attorney is upwards of $12,000. If you can go to the last slide, you can just see the level of complexity of the work that we do and why these cases are so important and why it's so important to help folks, because they just really cannot afford private attorneys. So all the money that Arlington County invests in Just Neighbors goes to work authorization. If we screen a client and they do not have that pathway, that does not come, we do not take the funds from that you all give us to do that kind of work. So I just wanted to share that so you can kind of see the level of complexity. And I will stop and open for questions.
All right, thank you, Erin. It looks like we've got a question from Tim. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Again, another great presentation, another awesome organization. Curious what you all are doing or planning to do to support the Afghan refugees that are coming in droves to the Northern Virginia area.
Yeah, it's interesting. We get asked that question a lot, and primarily the ones who have come in this evacuation, we're not really sure yet. Most of them are being handled by Refugee Resettlement, the Office of Refugee Resettlement, and there's organizations like Lutheran Social Services and there's about, I think there in Catholic Charities and ECDC in our area that handle those. They're contracted by the government to work with refugees being resettled. That being said, some of the folks that came in the actual evacuation may be getting humanitarian parole, and that we would be able to do the casework for. Usually humanitarian parole is for people before they get here. So we're not really sure how the government is going to handle that, if they're going to go ahead and grant them that and do that through the Office of Refugee Resettlement. But if they don't do that, then we are certainly available as our capacity will allow to do those applications for humanitarian parole. What we're also seeing is Afghan folks who are already here in the United States trying to petition and seek humanitarian parole for their family that has not gotten out of Afghanistan yet.
And I just want to add, so after they get resettled and stuff, we would be able to help them when they're then eligible for a green card and citizenship. So we'll probably, like in a year after them being resettled, things like that, that's where also we jump in and are able to help them continue the process.
Yeah. So there's not a lot for us to do at this point in time, but down the road, then we're definitely there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not an expert and I don't know a lot, but I would suspect that the government probably doesn't know exactly what they're going to do. And an organization like yours is probably going to have to be agile and ready to react. And I just offer that. But thanks for the explanation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great, we have another minute or so. Any other questions for Erin and Stephanie? Yeah, Rolf, go ahead.
Thanks for being here. What kinds of folks do you have that volunteer, either legally or administrative side? I mean, what is their motivation?
Most of them have just a real strong interest in helping the immigrant population. Since our founding 25 years ago, volunteers have been part of it, and it's really a way for people to connect to the immigrant community where they might not in their daily lives have a lot of interaction. And so from the beginning, we have made that part of our mission, is to connect people that way and build community. So whether it's an attorney who may not have done immigration law in their professional life, but wants to learn it, they work under the supervision of our staff attorneys, and get to learn a new area and just find it interesting and challenging. And I mean, we've had some volunteer attorneys work with us for 12 years now, and they have a real passion for the client, and as do our administrative volunteers. So it's been a real blessing to us.
Great, thanks.
Okay, and it looks like we are just about out of time. So we thank you.
Thank you.
And we really appreciate you being here.
Welcome. Thank you.
And Rolda, I think back to you for our last presenter, who I'm not sure if they are here yet or not.
I think that, oh, thank you, Mara. So the last presentation this evening is from IUTA, Immigration Legal Services. They're requesting $50,000 for their program. And this program provides legal services, including consultations, case representation, and education for low-income immigrants who may be eligible for humanitarian relief, such as asylum status, UNT visas, or similar to what we heard before, work permits, and special immigrant juvenile status for youth who have experienced abuse and neglect. I think we probably have, hopefully, 2 representatives. I think Victoria. Okay.
Hi, I'm here.
Good evening. Our process this evening involves a 15 minutes for you to do your presentation. Spend about 10 minutes giving us highlights, and also if there were any questions posed in Zoom grants, if you can answer those as well, and then 5 minutes for the committee members who may have additional questions. So you may proceed, and we have you at our end with the PowerPoint presentation.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Before I begin, I just also want to say that my coworker Jess is here, so we will both be fielding questions at the end, just so that you have 2 people to bounce your questions off of. Like Wilda said, my name is Victoria Makeda. I am the new managing attorney for our Virginia office at IUTA. I just wanted to thank you all so very much for allowing us to present our proposal to you. We are very excited to be able to share our ideas and share with you the impact that previous Arlington grants have had on our clients. So I'll just jump right in. If you can pass the next slide, please. And then you might have to hit the button one more time. And so first of all, we want to sort of give you an overall view of the programs and the services that we will provide using the funds provided by Arlington County. So next slide, please. So primarily we hope to provide immigration legal services to our Arlington community, essentially unaware of what their forms of immigration relief might be, or overwhelmed by the complexity of the different agencies that run immigration in the federal system. A lot of our soon-to-be clients don't know how to navigate that. And what we will offer to them is an in-depth legal consultation to assess all their forms of immigration relief, so essentially protect them from deportation, allow them access for work authorization, give them stability here in the United States. And for those who qualify, to provide long-term representation. I've added a couple of immigration benefits that we will provide to Arlington clients. This is not an extensive list of what we offer at IUTA, but this is sort of the bread and butter of what we think we'll be offering Arlington clients under this grant. And that includes special immigrant juvenile status. That is a form of relief from deportation that is available for children under the age of 18 who have been abused, abandoned, or neglected by one of their parents. Then there's a whole slew of immigration relief available to individuals who are survivors of crime, including U visas for survivors of violent crime, including domestic violence, T visas who are survivors of labor or sex trafficking, VAWA for individuals who are survivors of domestic violence in particular, and asylum for those individuals who were victims of crimes in their home country and are fleeing persecution. It is very likely that some of our Arlington clients will be in current immigration court proceedings, so they are going to be in current deportation proceedings. So we will be helping them avoid that deportation. And then lastly, we added a component of going into the community, in particular schools, to provide Know Your Rights presentations to both parents and kids who are there. Next slide, please. So in our proposal, you'll find two specific goals. I wanted to put them out front first so that we know exactly what we're talking about. So essentially, we want to reduce barriers to employment and help stabilize families by providing 20 in-depth consultation and long-term representation in 19 legal matters. That means 19 specific cases, 19 forms of relief. A client may have more than one form of relief, and we would pursue both of them at the same time if appropriate. The idea is to provide 14 clients with SIJS representation and 5 with representation if they are survivors of certain crimes. And then our second goal is to conduct outreach and provide legal information to at least 45 people in Spanish and in English. That goal is sort of a recognition that we are not going to be able to reach everybody at the same time. Next slide, please. So the time frame and our team will have at least 3 dedicated individuals on this grant, including myself, a staff attorney who just started, and we're very excited to have her join us, and a legal assistant. All of us are bilingual and very ready to start serving Arlington clients. For time frame, we definitely expect to meet all the grant goals by the end of the grant award period, but given immigration sort of time frames, we do expect representation for all these clients to extend well beyond the year or so of the grant, and they could be multiple years. Next slide. So geographic area of who we plan to serve, obviously residents of Arlington County, but we also have a close relationship with Arlington County Foster Care. So there are some children that are going to be under the care of Arlington County Foster Care, but who are not actually currently living in Arlington because they've been placed in homes outside of the county. But we do plan on serving those kids if they come to us. And then obviously going out to the Arlington community. Where we plan to do that, we have an office in Fairfax. It's off the Dunn-Loring Metro Station, but we also plan on going to schools, recreation centers, libraries, community centers like that. Next slide, please. And then one more, yep. So we want to talk about like why we think these services are needed and why we've sort of pinpointed them to serve the community. So according to the last census, 23% of Arlington residents are immigrants, 15% are Latinos. Obviously, not all immigrants need immigration help in this exact moment, but a lot of them do. So we want to make sure that we're here to serve them. UDA's current Arlington clients, which are funded by the county from this last fiscal year, are from Central America, South America, Asia, and Africa. The need for legal services always outpaces the services that we are able to provide. When we are open for consults, they fill up within a couple of hours, and we always have requests for more services. Obviously, with changes in administration, there's always changes in immigration law. So the uncertainty around immigration law always creates a higher need for immigration services. As people become eligible for more things or ineligible for other things, we always see them. And so we want to just say like why we think AUDA is the best fit. We've been in Virginia for the past, I believe, since 2008, but we've been in the DMV area since 1973. We've served over 150,000 immigrant clients through language access, social services, and legal services. Everybody who works at AUDA is trained in trauma-centered and aware services, which we pride ourselves on to make sure that our clients feel welcome and we can develop their cases fully. So methodology and programs, we plan to obviously prioritize Arlington residents for intakes under this grant. We will provide 20 in-depth legal consultations with appropriate follow-up, including FBI fingerprints or FOIA requests. This is mainly meant to deduce a client's past immigration history, because sometimes it can be extraordinarily confusing, both for them and for the attorney that's trying to work for them. We will provide long-term representation to children and survivors of crime and create new contacts and outreach, in particularly in schools. Our long-term, like big picture goals are to, provide our clients with work authorization, increase awareness of the immigration process, and decrease the risk of deportation, which typically comes with some sort of family separation. And so we wanted to share with you also who we hope to partner with and who we hope to work with in providing these services. We are very, very lucky to have in-house social services at AUDA. While it is not funded by the Arlington grant, Arlington residents who do come to us and receive our legal services would also be sort of eligible to seek services from our social services team. We work very closely with Arlington law enforcement and the foster care systems because they end up being critical players in seeking different forms of immigration relief. We work collaboratively with other legal and social service partners in Northern Virginia. We are constantly on listservs and calls, just trying to provide the best legal services possible. And in our application, you will actually see letters from Northern Virginia Family Services and Doorways supporting our application.
Great. I think now it's time for questions, if there are any. We want to make sure to leave time for that. Thank you. All right, are there any questions for our last applicant for the evening? Tim, go for it. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think you guys do talk this in the proposal, but perhaps you can kind of mention it again. You briefly touched on this presentation here, but tell me about the coordination that you all do to ensure that you're not duplicating any services, that you're doing some things that are truly unique from other service providers. Just, tell me about how you coordinate, how you differentiate.
Yeah, so a lot of service providers in Northern Virginia offer similar immigration relief to Arlington clients, but we are pretty unique in that we offer in-house social services and language access. and have that woven into the services that we provide. We really pride ourselves on holistic services at AUDA. From speaking from experience, it is very hard to work with a client on their immigration case when they are worried about food or housing or childcare or how to enroll their kids in school, and having social services to, team up with on that is very helpful.
And I can add that AUDA has expertise providing services to victims of crime, which is pretty unique in the Arlington area. We have really strong relationships with law enforcement, foster care, child protection. And at the same time, our clients have a tremendous amount of trust in us to be able to help navigate them through immigration relief that they're seeking as a victim of crime.
Great, thank you.
Okay. And Rhoda, looks like you have your hand up.
I do. In terms of the last year and having to change your method of providing certainly general or overall information and education, how are you able to attract or promote or advertise your services to be able to educate at least 45, I think you're saying 45 new participants, which seems a bit low. So I guess I'm wondering, how are you marketing the services?
That's a really wonderful question. So in terms of, and I'll split up into two parts. In terms of how we receive clients for full in-depth representation, AUDA has built such a good reputation amongst immigrant communities that it is word of mouth. One client tells another future client, tells another future client. And so that's how we get people calling, every day. In terms of our Know Your Rights presentations, like Jess mentioned, we have the relationships with foster care systems, we have the relationships with social services, and with different community partners. And so we hope to reach out to them. We hope to offer presentations and attending any events that they have. From experiences, we get contacted by like churches and sort of community events days on services, and we reach out and can provide these Know Your Rights presentations. And the idea is obviously that the goal would be to always serve these clients 100% in all their cases, but because of limited resources, we can't provide full representation to everybody. So we hope to provide individuals with their basic rights, so that if they are ever, hopefully, knock on wood, in a situation where they need to use them, they know what they are and can exercise them.
And we've done Know Your Right presentations both in person and virtually. And we often find for in-person presentations, often a smaller group, we will have a more in-depth conversation with the participants and be able to more fully answer individuals' questions that they may have.
Thank you.